A couple of years ago, there was a study that came out in America called Sticky Faith that looked at why do so many young people leave the church, especially when they go to college. They found that between 50 and 75% of young people left the church, left their faith when they went to college. And as part of this study, they found out certain characteristics of youth ministries that had in common that lost a lot of their young people. But conversely, there were some ministries that kept a lot of their young people, and they asked, well, what did they have in common? So first, the reasons why churches lost young people. What are the mistakes that we're making? The first was that a lot of the ministries were teaching or had a teaching emphasis based on Christian behavior. They weren't teaching discipleship. They weren't helping the young people have a life with Christ. They were teaching young people how to behave like a good Christian teenager, how to look right. And obviously, once those young people were out of that Christian community, there was no reason for them to continue that behavior. The second thing that those churches had in common was that the young people were not prepared for life outside of the Christian bubble. Their entire lives were surrounded by Christians. And essentially what they had learned is that those young people had learned to conform to their surroundings. And so obviously when they went to college, when they met new friends in their dorm room, in order to fit in, they learned they wanted to conform. And the lifestyle of that dorm room was not the same as the lifestyle from the church. And so very, very soon those young people walked away from the church. The third thing that they found out was that young people were not really being integrated into the wider church community, that the youth ministries were a church within a church. And the study showed that it's really, really important to integrate the young people into the wider church community, which actually goes on to show what did the youth ministries that kept the young people have in common. So the first and most important thing was that in those churches, the parents understood that they were the main discipler of their young people. It is not the church's job to disciple your children, it is your job. In the European context, very often we work with young people whose parents are not happy that their children have come to Christ. And so what does that mean for us? If the parents are working against us, working against Christ and not for us, it means that it's really important for these young people to have a spiritual parent. And that we shouldn't just leave it to chance that somebody in the youth ministry will mentor and spiritually parent that new believer. That in a ministry I would know who I am responsible for parenting, and that young person would know that I am your spiritual father. And the second thing that those churches that kept their young people had in common was that the young people were integrated into the wider church community. They weren't just part of a youth group, they were part of the wider church. So it's very important today to look at ways that your youth ministry or the young people in your church can feel like they're part of the wider church family and not just part of a youth ministry bubble.